Whoops. Dropped my Bitcoin. Not good. Anyway, how is everybody doing today? What a day. Exhausting day. There you go. Kill that guy. Yes. We didn't even need the pump yesterday. So, happy Friday. It's been incredible. I am pretty wrecked because so many people are sending so many messages saying, the usual stuff that this has been a very life-changing time for many people. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk about some of the good stuff that we see and why certain things are happening. And we've been hinting at that all along. So let's see what we have in store for us today on this happy Friday. So first of all, I'm going to talk about what is potentially a Bitcoin SuperTrend, but we shall see if it actually shapes up. We're going to look at a lot of charts and a lot of data and find out exactly where we're going to go from here, whether up or down. And disclaimer, not financial advice. It's edutainment and math, money, and freedom. Ton of charts today. So as usual, let's jump in and see what's going on. Let's look at the overall market. Bitcoin, Solana, Polkadot, MATIC, dark green. Extremely good day. It's funny, the closing thought yesterday in my video was only a matter of time before MATIC pops. And boy, did it pop last night. So that was kind of funny. And I love it when a plan comes together, using our quant models to identify the best players, and the cream kind of floats to the top. Let's look at the Bitcoin denomination. Here's another view of the world. Everything compared against Bitcoin. And Bitcoin had a huge day, over a $3,000 run in not many hours. So what actually beat it? Well, Solana beat it, Polkadot beat it, and so did MATIC. Nobody else did, though. So that's an important point of view to look at, too. So let's jump in, look at our smart contract platforms. The three winners in the last 24 hours, again, Polygon, Solana, Polkadot, all very strong. Even Cardano managed to match the Ethereum performance today. So that was the sixth best performer today as well. So that was really, really good news. But we'll talk more about Ethereum later in the show. So let's talk about some of the other great news. We just hit a crypto market cap all-new all-time high of $2.51 trillion. We've never been above $2.5 trillion before, and that's big, and we just hit it. So that's more good news. But let's look at some stuff to see if we are in a type of super cycle, super trend, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a super cycle per se, but a super trend possibly, because everything is pointing in the right direction. We've had extreme bullishness now since October began, and that's only 2 weeks ago. So let's look at this set of charts here. If we look at the chart on the monthly, the weekly, and the daily time frame, it's rare you see positive indicators, all bullish indicators, all at the same time, and that is a powerful thing to see, and that's what some people call a super trend, which gives us a very straightforward series of buy signals. But let's see what else is out there on the horizon. So we are obviously getting close to price discovery mode. When you look at this map here, you can see, we don't know much about what happens to Bitcoin above 64K. According to this chart from Whale Tracker, you can see that they believe it'll just be Whale map. It'll just be pure price discovery above 59K. I think it's more like above 63K. We nearly hit 63K an hour or two ago. We'll see. But above this line, it's what I call a vacuum. There's not much left except for maybe a small sell wall at the previous all-time high of about 64K. But there's not much that I can see up there on that actual sell wall. So we could be in a new run of a bull face. But let's have a look at more stuff to see if we can get more conviction. So what was also very interesting from the whale map, guys, the whales have been feasting and highly active since $29,000. This is the most active they've ever been since pre-2017, just to put things in perspective. And obviously that includes whale games, it includes some manipulation up and down, but they have been feasting and feasting hard, and that's a very bullish sign too. So let's look at some more bullish data. This is another all-time low. And this is the short-term hodler supply percentage. Basically, the number of people who are short time in the game are becoming fewer and fewer. More coins are moving to long-term holders. And that's also a very bullish sign. The other good news for the short-term people, very few of them, just about 1%, are actually in a loss. 99% are in profit. So pretty much everybody who has been in the Bitcoin game is making money. And got a lot of very kind notes from a lot of people today about how Bitcoin has been life-changing to so many people. I used to say Bitcoin is freedom. Bitcoin is opportunity. Bitcoin is hope. And it proved today that it was, especially for all the people who got through the summer. And a big reward is just there for being patient and not selling and not giving up, just staying the course. The writing's on the wall. All the indicators are there. This is the hardest asset, the most pristine asset in the world. So let's see what else we got. So this is another piece of very good news. This is a short liquidations ratio from the past where people got hit. But if you look over the last 2 or 3 months, basically nobody is short anymore. There have been massive buy market orders come in, both on spot and on derivative exchanges, but not a lot of people are going short. So the key message here is this rally has been driven by whale buying and accumulation by people between 10 and 100 Bitcoin, not by a short squeeze, which is impressive. Normally for that type of move to go from where we were 41K less than 2 weeks ago to 63 in less than 2 weeks is just unheard of. Anyway, let's talk about Plan B for a second. So as we just nearly clipped 63,000 today, if you remember his forecast back in July or June, I can't remember the exact month, but like clockwork, this guy is incredible. August bigger than 47K, September 43K, October greater than 63K. We just missed it by a hair today. And if he continues to being on the money with the bullseye there, it could be an extremely exciting Christmas. So again, hang tight, everybody. Don't think about selling because this guy has been so spot on so far. Now, in other Plan B charts, just a refresher on where we are. The red line is where we are today per Plan B. We are not far off the green line. The green line is $100,000, which is from a stock to flow model. The dark green line above that is 288K. So I calculated if we need about a 57.5% rise from where we are today to get to the 100K mark, which isn't a lot. Okay, it's not a lot considering how much we've come in the last 2 weeks. But if we continue, if we've done what we did in the last 2 weeks, we'll be at $100,000. Put it that way. That's how fast this thing moves. Now, for us to get to 288K, we need to do a 4.5x. More of a jump, but not completely unheard of, especially when we look at history. Let's look at what we did. From low to high today, we had $6,000 move in 18 hours, which again is staggering when you think about it. And that's a very, very short window of time. So to get to the next level, we'll see. And again, we've seen $6,000 moves in 18 hours. A few days ago, we saw a $3,000 move or $5,000 move in 3 hours. I promised people a $10,000 candle in a day or less before the end of this bull run. I mean, it just seems so easy to happen. We've gotten so close in different flavors so far. So let's see what other good stuff we have going on. TechDev, he sees us going to 150K plus. Here he drew his Elliott impulse wave, which was not unlike the one I did back in September, but he's going a little bit higher than me, up to 150K, comparing the 2013 cycle, which is the most relevant, to the 2021 cycle. So that also would be extremely exciting. What else do we have? Retail FOMO. Still none so far. This is the Google trend search over the past 5 years. You can see back in 2017, the big FOMO time when retail was grasping to get into the whole business. But here it's been kind of flatlining at around, the score is about 32, which is well off the typical 100, which is pure FOMO times. But there are people that are now getting messages, people that were tried to get in at 9,000, 12,000, 20,000, 30,000, and we couldn't get them in. Now they're picking up the phone saying, hey, is it too late? Can you send me the instructions about how to buy some Bitcoin? So it's beginning to happen, but nowhere near as high as it needs to be. Now let's talk about some of the people that Again, in full disclosure, I own all of these 3 companies and have done for a long time. MicroStrategy, Tesla, and Square all made massive Bitcoin returns. They all basically did at least 2x on their money. So that is over a $1.5 billion gain for Tesla. It's over a $3.2, $3.3 billion gain for MicroStrategy. And Square made about $300 million. If you guys are interested, I just finished building a new model today where you can punch in your holdings of a whole bunch of Bitcoin proxies to see if you can make a whole coin tomorrow. So I'll introduce that if you want tonight or tomorrow. Just drop a comment below if you want to see how to achieve that whole coin status. As you know, since the beginning of the year, I've been talking about it. Many people have achieved it. And let me know if you want to see all the different ways in which you can get there. So it's kind of a fun thing to play with. So let's talk a bit about the ETFs. Jacobi Asset Management in Europe are launching their first Tier 1 spot Bitcoin ETF, and that'll be available Europe-wide as we go forward. But the point is this is not just another ETF, but a ton are going to hit the market real soon. But what does that mean for Bitcoin? That means there's more on-ramps for big money, institutional money, and even the latecomers to get into the party. So this thing could really, really skyrocket with all of these on-ramps, these ETF-type funds that people can jump on and invest in. And they never really truly existed in a wide variety before. But that's all going to change next week with the futures ETF in the US, probably on Monday or Tuesday. And of course, this one here in Europe. And a bunch more are going to follow on. So even more dollars. Speaking of even more dollars flowing into Bitcoin, Australia's 5th largest pension fund is open to investing in crypto. And they just kind of got a green light to do so. Now, they have about $70 billion. So the way I like to think of it is, if it's a $70 billion fund, the typical allocation is conservatively, say 5% into Bitcoin. That would be about $3.5 billion. And that would bring about, by my calculations, $3.5 billion by a factor of 20 to 25. It'll add about 3,200, 3,300 to the Bitcoin price from where it is today. Just that movement. And that's the way we need to think in terms of what can move the price of Bitcoin. And it doesn't take a lot, as you know. It doesn't take a lot at all. One pension fund. And the Australian pension funds are nowhere as big as the Japanese or the German or the Swiss or other places like that. So watch this space. More money is coming. So Ethereum, a little bit of Ethereum news. Again, it looks like the code will finish in Feb for the move to proof of stake. Now that is not good, because per this from Woo Blockchain, repeating or retweeting from Tim Bako, the plan is for them to be code complete end of Feb or sometime in Feb, and then launch over the next 4 months. So what does that mean? That means it could take longer before true ETH 2.0 is available, which means the gas fees could stay high, which means I believe other chains could eat Ethereum's lunch or take some of their market share, like maybe some Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, all those different types of players, Polkadot with their parachains. So we'll see what happens. Again, I have a big ETH position, way bigger than my Solana position, but it looks like they could be exposed and in danger. But that is not stopping the bullish sentiment. People like Raoul Pal was on a video today, and he said he is, I can't remember what it was, but a huge percentage, like 3% Bitcoin now and 75% or 78% Ethereum. So he believes it is the safest and the most asymmetric bet of his lifetime. I think he's way too heavy in Ethereum, but we'll see where it goes. I think he should be in other things, like things that will eat Ethereum's lunch. Anyway, Coinbase saw a big drainage of Ethereum leaving their exchange, 400,000 tokens left. And this is typically a very, very bullish sign. And again, we're already nearly quite deflationary on some days for Ethereum. So that amount leaving will be quite serious in terms of demand. So Ethereum price should continue to go up. And we're banging on the door of 4,000. Haven't quite beaten it yet, but it should get through pretty soon. In terms of some other related news, world's richest man. He's nearly a quarter of a trillionaire. Elon Musk is now worth as much as Bill Gates and Warren Buffett combined. And that's big. And a big thank you as well. He's only 50. He's a young man. And I think it's kind of staggering, but a lot of his big boost that really sprung him over Jeff Bezos was the fact that he made about 60 billion from SpaceX, which they did some private share transfer or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly how much, but it added a big chunk to his net worth for the first time ever. So SpaceX is also very powerful. Anyway, in other news, a little bit of bad news. It can't be all rainbows and unicorns. In Tether news, they were fined $42.5 million basically for lying and not telling the CFTC, which is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the truth. Probably the first of a few fines. But, you know, it's good that these little fines happen. Smack on the wrist, move on. No big interruption to the markets. Hopefully, that's all the Tether news, but I think there might be more, but I think it'll all be solved as well. So with that, everybody, happy Friday. Hope you like the content. Hit the like if you do. And I'll open up some Q&A because I know you guys have some questions. What do you do during these crazy FOMO times? So here I am. Let's pop up and see exactly what's going on. I think I should drink some water. Luke is back. Luke is always there. So you supercharge your Bitcoin equities with options. For some relaxed confidence in options, it's better to keep 1/3 equities or allocate more to Bitcoin. I think everybody needs a mix. Like if you see, when you can get into equities at certain times, sometimes they can be overvalued compared to Bitcoin or undervalued. I like to identify them when they're undervalued. If you look at my video from 2 weeks ago about all the miners, it was pretty clear that Clean Spark was drastically undervalued at $10 and change. And now it's nearly $16. So it's gone up 50% in 2 weeks. Bitcoin hasn't gone up 50% in 2 weeks. And that's where you can make a lot more money in using equities with or without options. But you need to be able to time it right and be able to get in at the right time and get out at the right time. And that's when you can make a lot of money, Luke. So watch some of the trades that I do and when I get into things and when I get out of things. But I have a whole host of Bitcoin proxies. I love them. And I'll showcase that model hopefully tomorrow as well to you all. Arthur LM, could you give us your thoughts on VRA Veracity? Any target price? I didn't do a deep dive into Veracity because it didn't come out too good, but I did look at it. Veracity, where is it? I know I popped it up. There was a few little issues with it, and I know a lot of people like it. What was the problem with Veracity? Yeah, usual story. Some of the tokenomics was far from perfect, and it's one of those NFT plays that's such a crowded space. And I tend to focus much more on the smart contract platforms and a couple of NFT plays like Engine and stuff, and looking at Rally now as well. But when I looked at Veracity, there was something in there, and I can't remember what it was, but it was not good. And I know it's in the top 200 now as well, but I can check. I just can't remember. There's so much going on in my head right now, Arthur, but thank you for the question. Artem, was a chance to see a huge crash in the next 6 months, and what would be the main reason for that? Crash, I'm not sure what you mean by crash. Crash is in like supply crunch, a crash to get Bitcoin that would drive the price parabolic, or a crash. I think you might mean crash, but just spelt it wrong. It depends. A crash is always possible. There are some dark clouds on the horizon. I think there's a few more shoes to drop with Evergrande, but there's just so much money. I think a spike in interest rates, a more saber rattling between Taiwan and China. I think a couple more Evergrande type situations happening could put a dent on the market, but still there's so much money. We're back nearly up at that 4,500 on the S&P. So we'll see. I just think either way, money's just going to continue to flow into Bitcoin, and it's so scarce that it just has to go up from here. So I don't know. I remain kind of bullish, and Q4 tends to be a very bullish time as well historically. So it's when everything kind of runs. And if you look at things like Tesla, nearly at 850 again, which is where I last shorted it a while back at the beginning of the year. It's amazing how things come back. So I'm not too concerned. But you never know. Always be prepared for that gray swan. Always have a little cash on the sidelines, or be prepared to sell stuff. And I'll start slowly as we go higher and higher, moving towards more and more cash as we go forward. Pika pika, since inflation is here to stay and our USD is guaranteed to lose value, is it smart to hold on to USD? And if yes, how much do we hold on to as a normal standard American household? It's not smart to hold on to cash. No. If you're talking about USD as in US dollars, or USDC that you can earn 6% on, maybe that's what you mean. But holding cash medium term is not a good idea. Holding it for a short window to take advantage of a market dip, good idea, because you need that. But if you are holding cash, at least get some yield on it at a place like Celsius or something. So that's what I would recommend. But how much do you hold as a standard American household? It depends what your burn is. You know, if you have a 6,000 square foot house with swimming pools and everything else, gardeners, it's going to be very, very expensive. If it's a small place with a low burn, I don't know. Look at what you typically spend and what you need to survive. Multiply it by 2 or 3 and have that as a cash reserve. That'll keep you covered for at least 3 months. So sleepless. Japan's incoming prime minister includes huge stimulus spending in their agenda. This will most likely be funded via printing. More good for crypto? Yeah, the Japanese market doesn't really impact that much, and they've been printing money solidly for 20 years. And that's why things like their stock market has been kind of flat. So it's not a good thing, but the whole world will continue to print. The whole world has painted themselves into a box, so nobody can get away from money printing. The US say they will taper, which means slow down the amount of printing that they're doing, but they will continue to print. No doubt about that. So we'll see. SK, what Bitcoin DeFi projects are you most bullish on? I found that Sovereign is pretty interesting and been using yield farming. It's decent so far. Yeah, Sovereign is interesting. I think Stacks is the place where I would play first. It's the biggest, it's the most established, and has the most upside. I nearly got into a position, but I got too busy because it's easy to access. I think you can buy it on Binance and KuCoin. So, but Stacks, if you're telling me of the 5 plays that I covered in my video a couple of weeks ago, I think Stacks would be the number 1 place to go. Sovereign maybe number 2. But they're both interesting for a small position. But I still think there's safer places to park money right now. Eric, good to see you again. What should be done to ETH 2.0 so you sell your Solana and go all in on ETH? For that to happen, they'd have to launch ETH 2.0 before Christmas, and it has to be flawless and scalable, faster than Solana, etc. They still have the first mover's advantage. They have huge network effect. Like 93% of all NFTs are still sold on Ethereum. So that is an extremely strong feather in the cap of Ethereum. But all the other guys, all the other smart contract platforms are nipping at the heels and they're beginning to steal market share. But the pace, what I look at is the pace of growth, not a static view of the world, but how quickly they're growing week to week, month to month. How many dApps, how much TVL, how many exchanges, how many projects are being built. That's what's really, really interesting. And those guys will just continue to take market share from ETH. And remember, when you look at the relative market caps, you know, Ethereum is more than 10x larger than Solana. The question is, if Ethereum doubles their market cap, which means their price goes to 8,000 nearly, let's call it, that means Solana will double or more than double as well. So that's how I look at things. In fact, I was working on some models this morning with exactly that and have some new numbers too. So Angarona Love, staking MATIC at wallet Polygon seems unlocked into the ETH bridge via MetaMask. Can't claim stake or transfer due to high gas fees. Any solution? There is a way of getting out of Polygon by bypassing Ethereum gas fees. Somebody talked about it on Discord. I should mention that, but I don't know how to do it offhand. It is possible though. Just Google how to do it. I'm sure there's tons of people that have really good Reddit posts on where you can find exactly how to do it so you can bypass them. I had some issues myself with MetaMask, moving from wrapped ETH to Polygon, trying to get it back and then get it back to an exchange. And it was a pain and it was expensive. But there is a clever way around it. I think you move from Polygon to some DEX and then from there back to an exchange. So, but check it out. I don't want to give you false information, but it is possible. JRAM, not financial advice. If you had 25K to invest short-term gains, what your crypto poison? Short-term, like 1 year time horizon. So 1 year is long-term. Short-term is kind of less than 6 weeks for me, but 1 year is very long. Especially in this crypto world, 1 year is like 10 years in the old equity world. 25K. Well, I can't say what you should do with your 25K, but what I've been buying most recently was all Solana on dips. So 121, 136, and 151, and 146 most recently were all the levels that I bought at, because I still think it's in terms. I look at risk and capital preservation and growth, and when I use all of those metrics and parameters for all of the crypto I look at, that comes up. Now, I did look at a couple of other names to try get some flyers, quick returns, but they just all seem riskier. Names like Rally and a few others, and I just couldn't make them fly. And I have been layering into Polkadot and MATIC as well, but I will not be buying MATIC at these levels. So, but many people say Polygon MATIC could get to 350 very quickly. My target's about 298, so it's a bit shy of that. Brandon, how do you strike a profitable balance between going all in before the market cycle leaves you behind and saving money for sniping? You always seem to have more money for sniping. Yeah, well, I generate a lot of cash from a lot of option strategies. I sell a lot of positions, sell a lot of calls, and trade and swing trade, and that generates a lot of cash. And that's how I always have money to go back in. And also I get in and out of positions. So things that I believe have reached my target, I sell ruthlessly. You know, there's an old rule I've always had is know your exit before you enter. So if you buy something like, say I buy Avalanche at $10, I'm getting out at 50. If it 5x's, I'm out. Even if it went to 56 or something, or 65, I can't remember the exact numbers, but that's it. I'm ruthless. I get out and I take that money and I move it to another project. So that's what I'm also doing a lot of. So that's how the money comes in. MotoJB, glad the bull didn't give you the horns. Updated snipe targets for Bitcoin and ETH. Good question. I'm getting this a lot today. MotoJB, Josh. So as you guys know, chasing is not something I'm given to or advise, but let's look at the chart real quick. And it's hard. I mean, just early this morning, Bitcoin was under $57,000. And then it just shot up. So who knows? It could wick down. I don't see it going back to 57K right now. If you had to get a little piece, try very low 60s, like half at 60,100 and the other half at 59,100. And there'll be two entry levels. And then layer in harder if it goes down lower. But I just see a lot of good stuff. Now, everybody, we could have the situation where it's buy the rumor, sell the news. You know, when this ETF launches on Monday, there could be a temporary dip. So if you are trying to get into a position, I believe there could be a brief sell-off, maybe to the tune of 5%. Take us down to maybe 55, where we were, what was it, Wednesday or Thursday, somewhere around there, and then go straight back up. So be prepared for that. And the whales may try to manipulate as well if they see some positions they want to wipe out. So that would be the Bitcoin snipe levels. And then Ethereum, let's have a quick look at the Ethereum chart. That one's going to 4,000. Again, could have had Ethereum at 3,400 2 days ago. Now it's 3,850. It's, again, as I say, it's kind of knocking on the door of 4,000. Once it gets above 4,000, it should be off to the races. There was a resistance level at 36.50. It got through that okay. It's just struggling now at that 38.50, 38.80 level. So again, two layers. One would be around the 37.50. Second one would be the 36.30. And they'd be the two things I kind of look at as well, if you wanted to get more of those two. But don't forget Solana too, unless you already have a lot. Mark R., what would an announcement from, say, Lamborghini or similar that they will accept crypto as a payment, similar to what Tesla did? I think there's some boat companies that actually sell yachts for Bitcoin, but the problem is Lamborghini don't sell enough cars to make a difference. It's just too small, way too small in terms of volume. And I hope Tesla turn it back on too as a feature, but I think that would be nothing. I think it'd be much bigger of an announcement to have a treasury of a Fortune 100 company to say they put Bitcoin in their balance sheet this month. We still have some earnings releases coming to say companies either bought more Bitcoin or added more Bitcoin. That would have a much bigger effect on the market. Again, the companies, the Fortune 500 and other companies all around the world are going to start looking around saying, wow, look at all the money MicroStrategy, Square, and Tesla made on Bitcoin. They all doubled their money. And we're talking billions and billions of dollars. We should do that too. They know inflation's here. Apple is sitting on a fortune. Microsoft is sitting on a fortune. Google's sitting on a fortune. They're just buying real estate right now and building office spaces. So we'll see. But Lamborghini, Mark, would have no effect on the price. The Australian pension fund would have a much bigger effect. JG, what are your thoughts about owning one whole Bitcoin within the Purpose ETF via a tax-free account? No problem. And in fact, I'm going to be doing a Bitcoin proxy video real soon on exactly all the different ways you can do it, because you don't have to be all in on just one, say, Purpose ETF. You could have like 300 shares of HUD-H. You could have a couple of shares of Tesla. You could have some shares of Square, a little bit of GBTC, a little bit of Bitcoin in your PayPal account. You could have 100 different ways to get your whole coin. And that's what we'll cover tomorrow to show. So it doesn't matter how you get it, as long as you get it and you keep it safe. And it doesn't get eaten away by a lot of fees and charges. Because imagine you've got a whole Bitcoin and then some companies charging you 2% per year. After a year, you got 98% of a Bitcoin, and that's a pain in the butt. So watch your fees. That 1% per year you can live with. But make sure if you are getting your whole Bitcoin, make sure you can keep it above that 1 by keep adding to the fund. Chad G, good to see you again. What happens in 10 years with fiat debasement, increased inflation, lower purchasing power, endless printing, wages not keeping up, inflation, adjusting our Bitcoin goals? It's terrifying. Chad, oh my God. So last night I was awake all night thinking about exactly that. And I started again. Today was like a modeling day for me. And I also snuck out and saw a bull. But I am working on a forecast of money printing and the impact of inflation. So we'll have a much better handle on exactly what the true estimate of money printing will be in the United States and other places around the world. The impact on your purchasing power 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And, what it all means. So if you do have a Bitcoin and it's worth $1 million in the year 2030, 2031, what is it actually worth? And we're working on that model. And I also have an upcoming meeting with somebody that is expert in that. So him and I are going to bang heads, and it'll be a fun video. So stay tuned for that. That's coming too. But it's a great question, Chad, and I'll share what I have as soon as I have it ready. MindFed, with 77% of SOL currently being staked and earning rewards, doesn't that cause large inflation for SOL? No, not necessarily. So the inflation is capped. So the inflation for Solana is a little bit high. It's about 10.8% right now, but my calculation is going down to 8%, and it'll eventually be stabilized at 1.5%, which is like, anything else. So the other thing as well, when you have a lot of SOL staked, like a lot of Cardano staked, etc., it's off the market, which means when people come in or people need to use SOL to buy NFTs, the supply dries up real quick. And it's actually a very good thing that it's staked. But no, that's not a concern. And there is a budget for community rewards, and that's part of the inflation. So it doesn't make it more inflationary because it's already included in the inflation calculation. Crypto Forever 2019. I swapped all my Bitcoin ETH link to 2000 SOL. Wow. Will this get me to 1 million by February as I'm planning to move to another country? And now I'm feeling bad as Bitcoin is going up. Yep. So Crypto Forever, great question. Risky move. You're basically putting all your chips in the Sol train. It will run faster, but you got to remember the type of people that are buying Bitcoin are very different to the type of people that are buying Solana right now. 2000 Sol. Let me just pull up some of the numbers I ran this morning. Give me 1 second, because this will be interesting for everybody. I just want to make sure I get them right. So what I did was I took Raoul Pal's projection for Ethereum, and let me pull it up. So let me just, this is actually relevant for everybody. All right. So Raoul Pal sees Ethereum going to at least $20,000 and maybe $40,000 by March 2022. Now, if that holds, we could see a SOL price in excess of $1,000. So per my model, so I have a model that compares the price of Ethereum to Solana based on market share percentages, taking into account all the supply, the inflation, and everything else. And if Ethereum goes to 9,000, I believe Solana should be at about $725. So you have, and that's very achievable, $700. I think if the market does go crazy like we're seeing, 2,000 times $725. Yeah, a little bit shy. Now the second model is 20,000 SOL. If Ethereum goes to 20,000, Solana will go to about 1183, and if Ethereum goes to 40,000, Solana will go to about 1,900. So 1,900 times 2,000, then you're in very, very good shape. So, but we'll see where it all goes. I mean, it's just a crazy, crazy time. But just be prepared with the exit plan as well. I think you'll be fine. So, the other thing as well, when money flows into Bitcoin, it always circles back out. But right now, it is a super trend for Bitcoin because of all the stuff that happened in ETF and pension funds and the George Soros family. And it's just an avalanche of great news. But I'll think about those 2,000 SOL, and we'll chat again when I'll run some more numbers with some allocated probabilities to see if I can get you to your $1 million. But be careful having all your eggs in one basket. It's a very risky strategy. Tommy Wilton, couldn't resist, got my 1 Bitcoin, but traded most everything I held. I feel good about having it, but what are your thoughts about having 95% of Bitcoin back? That's fine, of course. So, in fact, if you look at my allocation of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana, they make up 97% of what I have, and I have 3% in all the other alts. So I'm extremely concentrated like that. So there's no problem having 95%, but just make sure you have a plan to getting back in there. And if Bitcoin goes to $100,000, that's going to cost you $5,000 to get back to that 5%. So think about that. But the reason I say one Bitcoin is because it's a very good goal for people to strive towards, but it's getting harder and harder to get there as the price goes up higher and higher. And speaking of, yeah, Bitcoin's a little weak right now. It's gone down a little bit. So, German girl in Virginia, my initial investment is in the market. Moving forward, I'll have $300 available every 2 weeks. DCA 50% and build cash reserve with the other 50%. That's a good plan. But sometimes it's good. What I used to do back in 2020, I would DCA, but I created what I call a DCA on steroids plan. So I'd allocate an amount per month to invest, and I would wait to use it. I'd wait for the right price based on Fibonacci levels and layering, and I'd allocate. The more something dipped, the heavier I would go in. So imagine 30,000 a month. I would put, say, a third of it in, 10,000 at a certain level, and the other 20,000 at a much lower level. And if it didn't hit that lower level, I'd wait sometimes till the following month and wait for a big dip, because the volatility of Bitcoin was just a beautiful thing to watch. So you could always snag, like at the time, like $9,000, and go to 10.5, go back down to 8,900, 9,000. So think about doing that as well, but play with your TA. make sure you have a TradingView account and set up your lines. Andrew C., any suggestions for crypto savvy accountant? Do you use the local CPA or online software? So I've been doing my own books for a long time, my whole life. I have Quicken and QuickBooks. I do the business accounts and work accounts, and it's all pretty easy configured. I have somebody nearly full time who helps me with stuff too, because I have multiple businesses. And yeah, so that's what I do. And then I have an accounting firm that does all my filings and stuff. I don't want to touch that. We do all the heavy lifting and give them the perfect artifact and then let them just punch into our system and submit it. Trail Boss, 130K in an IRA. Want to move all to Bitcoin, crypto, the best way? You got to move, I guess, from your IRA to a crypto IRA, like iTrust Capital or something like that. Do your research. There's about 4 or 5 players that are all varying degrees of goodness, and that's the best way. But be careful, and it's a shame that you're buying in now. I mean, with 130K, you could have had nearly 5 Bitcoins a couple of months ago. Now you might get 2. And that's just how fast stuff moves in this crazy market. Mr. B70, wouldn't at one point Bitcoin become too expensive to trade? If it is going to hit 1 million at some point in the future, wouldn't the trading stop as everyone would just hold and take the interest from Celsius? No, things will always trade. And remember, it won't be Bitcoins. Your average person won't be buying and selling whole Bitcoins, but they'll be trading in Satoshis. And I also have a vision that there will be Satoshi cents, which would be 100th of a Satoshi, which would be 100th of 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. So there's no limit to how much this thing can be broken up and split up. So from that perspective, it'll always be traded, but people will be buying smaller chunks as the price goes up. And that's just always going to happen. And we'll see. But the scarcity will have a huge impact, and it's going to drive the price completely parabolic. As soon as everybody realizes, we're so early, but when the world wakes up to how pristine this asset is, the other 97.5% of the world, or the other 54 million of the 55 million millionaires that haven't figured it out yet, I mean, there simply isn't enough to go around. So people will be fighting over Satoshis in a couple of years for sure. Chad G, there you are again. What are 3 places on your bucket list to visit the world and why? Well, I've been to most places on the earth, but I haven't scuba dived in the Maldives. So that's the only place in the world I haven't scuba dived. That's supposed to be really good. I'd like to go heli snowboarding somewhere over amazing powder. Maybe deep into Canada somewhere, or go back to Switzerland and do it there. And then the third thing, to go to Borneo in Indonesia to set up the orphanage for the orangutans. That's the plan. So, Trish Hill, thank you. The world's need more people like you. Glenn Frampton, our walk to the mic is rockstar stars. Thank you. Abigail, thank you so much. Snowball, Donna King, Capono, Playing with Pastels, Heather, Ben DeLorenzo, Capono twice. Letroitu, Pony, Tanya Kokate, Dragonfire, Crypto Anomalous, Tunas on Toast. How are you, buddy? Mason, Tunas on Toast, I think, is in Korea, South Korea. Mason Bromhead, Christopher H, and Corn. Big thank you, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for the quickie. Thanks for being here, and enjoy the market, and be ready to snipe if you don't have enough. See you guys and gals.